Hi, my name is Shane Chagpar, and I'd like to take you on a walkthrough through our global best practice methodology for root cause analysis and incident management that we've now built into the ServiceNow platform. We offer a scope apt in combination with our world-class training, coaching, and consulting solutions that allows you to bring a rich form of documentation with less overhead and improved results to your IT organization. What kind of results do you ask? Well, let's talk about it. 74% reduction in meantime resolution sound good to you? Of course it does. How do we achieve it? Through a simplification of your documentation, a simplification of your workflow, and making sure everyone has the opportunity to see what's important at the right time so they can make good, solid decisions. Here we are right now in an incident, and you can see here that I'm having an E117 alert at a nearby bank. With the scoped KT application, if you scroll down, one of the options that opens up is an incident analysis form, and another is an area for a situation appraisal. Those who are familiar with our course would know that situation appraisal is an area for us to document specifics about our current impact, future impact, and time frame of this problem so that we can make sure to perform the correct handovers and get the right level of priority and people looking at this problem. But when you come into a standard ticket, you're faced with work notes. Nobody wants that. How can we improve it? Well, if you enter into the KT Incident Analysis Scoped app, we now present information in a series of steps. The first, being able to appraise your situation and control your in-flight actions during an incident. All the to-dos, all the follow-ups, and all the other things that need to be done in order to get the best customer experience is located right here. Our popular is and is nots, the data gathering tool that put KT on the map, where we take key information about an incident or a problem and put it into a series of columns and rows that describe the problem and do so in a way that tells people what information we've collected and what information is missing. A decision analysis step where we can pick the best solution, workaround, or fix that we have available and make it clearly visible to others who may be looking at this documentation in the future, hoping to get solutions or ideas that they might be able to apply to their own current problem. A risk management step where we can document things like the likely reason for a fix to go wrong and what we have planned to both prevent and contain the issue if it does. No more weak backout plans where we just try to reverse after something bad happens. We can build full, robust thinking into a plan and make it visible for all those that are checking this ticket. And finally, milestones, an area that will allow us to time track and bound what specific step of a critical thinking process your team is doing so that you can later track and trend, look for opportunities, and improve it. Let's take a look at some of these areas in more detail. We'll start with the situation appraisal. In the situation appraisal, I have the option to add a row for every concern or element that should be on my mind. This allows me to make a brain dump of the things in my head, freeing myself for other incident or problem activities. This form is similar in both the incident management and problem management versions of the scoped app. To add in a new concern, I simply insert a new row by double-clicking, and I'm able to document need to follow up with the team lead at client site. I'm able to provide context by additionally typing into the other columns that are here to create a supercharged to-do list that gives me a very clear action item, optionally impact data to understand how to prioritize this, and then more powerfully the ability to assign this to a person that exists in the global database so that they can follow up at the appropriate time frame. In the is and is nots, I'm able to collect data, and when I open this form, the standard KT collection points appear, including my what, my where, my when, and my extent questions. Adding a new question or a new layer is as easy as double-clicking and choosing from the drop-down the type of data that I'm adding. For example, if I wanted to add in that geographically the Osborne Bank I was referring to was the one on 221 Front Street, I could. And when I save, this data will be filtered right up into the area that you would expect it to be, just like you were working on one of the KT forms. Is data helps us collect facts about the problem at hand. They're factual and important to engineers as well as managers who may be watching this issue. Is not data describes things that are reasonably similar to the is data that could be experiencing a problem but do not. Together, these form a really powerful pair of data sets that allow us to come up with and filter our ideas and thoughts so that we can get in the right direction and go there quickly. Another thing the collection of is and is nots allows us to do is allows us to find relevant change through a technique called distinctions. Distinctions is where we document things that are unique to the is versus the is not. And when we do so, we document it and then search for changes around those distinctions. Any changes we find around a distinction using this algorithm is relevant and therefore a possible source of the problem you're having. In this particular example, we noticed that FCM0001 South node has more sensors than any of the others, and it's the only one that's broken. One of the changes that we've noticed is that we've connected a few more of them recently. Perhaps that could be a reason why we're having an issue. Doing this algorithm and repeating it for other pairs of data will also give your team solid thoughts as to what's going on and help subject matter experts quickly access their mental knowledge to help your team. When you've finished working with your is and is nots, you can look at the decision analysis page. And the decision analysis page or step helps us document what choices do we have to solve problems here. In this particular case, we could try a reboot, which was suggested. We could check and replace the motherboard, replace the FCM, or maybe perform a rollback. According to the documentation here, it looks like the best choice was to check and replace the motherboard. And guess what? It worked. Optionally, I could put in some timing data to say when was this attempted. Finally, before the team went out and checked and replaced that motherboard, they did some risk management. They asked themselves, what could go wrong when I check and replace that motherboard? And they documented likely causes for failure. Adding a new likely cause for failure is as easy as double-clicking on a new row. For each of these likely causes of failure, we documented multiple preventative actions if it was possible. For example, if they found out that one of the right reasons that this would fail would be there was too high of a load for the new FCM to handle, one of the preventative actions they thought of was to perhaps test it out before they do so. And if we did have too high of a load, our contingent action was to use a second backup FCM to connect it with and therefore share the load. We also have a column for triggers. Triggers act as alarms that help us understand when should we pull the trigger and perform this contingent action. As I mentioned earlier, this brings a richness to some of our risk mitigation plans and helps change management approve those last-minute, really important critical changes with confidence. Finally, as you're working through an incident, sometimes there's key steps in the sequence that we want to be able to document. For example, when did the service degrade? When did we send out that initial notification? When did we restore partially our service? When did we even engage an incident manager? If your team starts to document a rich series of notes like this, it makes it easier for post-incident management to understand the timeline of events and look for ways to improve it. I'm sure your problem management team would agree that this is something that would really help your workflow and improve the way that you react to your customers.